The unknown known, the known unknown, God Yahweh. That's the God that I know. You can never really know the God that I know because the God that I know is the God that I've come to know. And no matter how much I try to explain to you the God that I know, the God that you know is the only God that you will ever know. So, do you know God? The clearest explanation I can give you about God is to present to you God's Son, Jesus. If you are a Christian, then we'll agree that Jesus, being God's Son, is in fact God Himself. Read St. John 14, 1 through 14. That is the God that I know, the unknown known, the known unknown, God Yahweh, Hebrew name for God, Yahweh. Reread St. John 14:6. To know God is to know Jesus. That is the God that I know. Some years ago, a pastor in a church that I was attending introduced me to Jesus, and at the end of his sermon, he read this verse, St. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Over the years, I've gotten to know God through Jesus a lot better, and I take to heart Jesus' words. Reread St. John 14, 12 through 14. All that I ask of God through Jesus is that they remember me in my time of need, and I ask the same of God through Jesus for all of you. The God that I have come to know, the unknown known or the known unknown, God Yahweh. He will certainly grant us the things that we ask of Him in Jesus' name. What would you have me do now? By Lonnie Phillips, writing as the known unknown, the unknown known. I did it, the thing that had never been done. I looked at what had been done and realized that all had not been done. I went to God, the source, through Jesus the Christ. I was given the key. I stood at the door, turned 180 degrees in one direction and 180 degrees in another, 360 degrees from the center, and there was no reflection in the mirror. I stepped back into focus, and the problem solved itself. What was has always been, what is will always be, and tomorrow will be another opportunity. Explain the reality of God, and some will call you a God, God with a small g. Even if God can be explained, the question will always be the same. Why won't He come forth? If He did, He would cease to be God Yahweh. Am I saying that God can never be fully known? No. God can be fully known. Jesus proved that. But once He has come to be known, that will be just one of several dimensions of the myriad numbers of dimensions of Him. God can never be fully known in all dimensions except through the lens of the known unknown or the unknown known. A single mind cannot present God. It takes the collective mind of man to come to know God. God will never be fully known because it will take God Himself to explain Himself. God presents comparable knowledge through the mind of man. Man can never explain God because if he did, man would become God, and that man would never be able to satisfy all of the questions asked of Him. God exists both within and outside of the confines of the mind of man, fundamentally as the known unknown and or the unknown known, or as God Yahweh. An unwritten symphony just waiting to be harnessed and orchestrated by a body of believers. Thank you.